joined now by a doctor, but perhaps not the doctor you're expecting. I would like to introduce supporting artist, Ian Furey King. How are you, Ian?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Before we start talking about Doctor Who and some of your other work, you telling me earlier you've got quite a collection of Doctor Who themed hats. Do you want to explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I turned into a hataholic. I think that's a good word for it. I'm lucky my wife's a milliner, but over the decades, I've been collecting hats. And I've watched Doctor Who since episode 1. People say to me, do you remember where you were when Kennedy was shot? I think, well, I might have been at school. I don't really have an alibi. But on the Saturday after, I know exactly where I was at 5:15. I was sat watching the very, very first episode, and I've not missed one since. And I seem to have picked up the hats over the years that sort of seem to fit in. Whether I've subconsciously been trying to emulate the Doctor, I don't know. It's probably weird.
You have actually played a Doctor in Doctor Who, haven't you?
I have, yes. Yes. It was the Mummy on the Orient Express. And it started off when I had a phone call from my agent. And that's odd, because normally you get a text saying, are you available? I had a phone call and she asked if I was available on certain dates. And I said, what for? She said, no, tell me if you're free first. And I said, well, I am. She said, well, you've been cast as the Doctor in Doctor Who. And I went, no, not that Doctor, a Doctor. But it was good enough for me. I turned up a sort of costume and stuff, and this beautiful sort of 40s outfit. And then turned up on set. First day, we were waiting to go to hair and makeup, and out came the Doctor, rushing up to greet us and introduce himself. My name's Peter. I'm thinking, no. Being a sort of Doctor Who nut, it was sort of magic. But then when we got onto the set, we started filming. And of course, when you film things, you don't do it in chronological order. So we filmed this wonderful bit where a little old lady is ill and she dies. And they could say, is there a doctor on board? And the crowd parts, and it's me. And of course, the setup was to wind sort of everybody up, thinking it would be sort of Peter Capaldi coming through. And the number of times so I'm being beaten up by a daft dog now. The number of times that the director said, right, I want the Doctor over here. And Peter started moving. He said, no, I want the real Doctor, not some time-traveling made-up one. It was great. The atmosphere on set was wonderful as well.
Yeah, and you must have had a lot to do with the man himself, with Peter, on that story, particularly as the set looked quite small.
It was, yes. It was a reproduction of a railway train from the period, the Orient Express, slightly wider than it would be, with removable walls to get the camera into position. But it was still up close and personal. And there were only about 6 of us on most of the scenes, the scientists and myself as the Doctor.
Yeah, what it was nice, as you say, there's a lot of moments throughout that any time the foretold attacks, you're there, and you get a lot of screen time throughout.
Yes. Yeah, it was marvellous. And as you say, the foretold, played by a wonderful young actor, and he was actually skinny enough for the ribs to be sort of empty behind him in the costume. And we were playing around between sort of takes, and being a doctor, I had a stethoscope, so I sort of went to check his heartbeat, and there was a cough, and we looked behind, there was this sort of official-looking chap. We thought, oh no, we've been caught playing around. And it was the official BBC Doctor Who photographer. And he said, no, I love that. So he took that and he used it in the Doctor Who magazine, which was really great. We were up close and personal, and being in that environment with 2 of the biggest sort of Doctor Who nuts going, Peter Capaldi and Frank Skinner, we ended up having discussions about what was canon and what happened in what episodes, and it was just absolutely a dream come true. I nearly got into trouble at one point. I went off to the loo and stood outside the toilet was an angel, and when I came out, someone had moved it slightly, so I thought, yeah, I'll do that as well. Young lady went into the loo. I moved the statue, which is made of sort of foam rubber, but I was a bit overzealous with my movement, and as she came out, it grabbed the door handle. and the scream echoed around the studio, and I thought, whoops, but no, I got away with it.
So something like that, as you said, there was only sort of 6 of you on the train. Were you around for sort of the full episode then?
Yes, we did. We did the whole thing. Some of the shots were going on when we were in different parts of the studio. I remember when they were doing the bits in the baggage car, I was doing a secret shopper bit in one of the corridors. And it was quite funny because Peter Capaldi, nor the director, knew what actually a secret shopper was. And my wife and I used to do it sort of and a little bit of money. So I explained it. Ooh.
So having been an avid fan for a long time, did it live up to its expectations?
Yes, it did actually. There was when you work on things, quite often you think, oh, this is a little fake and stuff. But the set was so good, and Peter Capaldi is such a wonderful actor. It just sort of felt really good. I don't often watch myself, but I did for that one. I made sure I did, and it just felt as good when I saw the episodes as it did making it.
And of course, this wasn't your only encounter with Doctor Who. You returned a year later for The Woman Who Lived, playing a priest.
That's right. Yes. Yep. And coincidentally, it was on Peter Capaldi's birthday, which meant there was cake going around. It was good fun. There's a scene. I'm sort of fairly deep background in that one. But there's a scene where we're all being sort of attacked and sort of explosions are going off. And it was the hottest summer day. And I was dressed in a black sort of priest robes. And I felt really worn out. So at one point, instead of running around like a lunatic, I rushed up to near an old broken, blown up barrow and just knelt down and prayed. It was relaxing. But the director spotted it and zoomed in on it. And, oh, well, there you go.
So you've got quite the skill for getting the camera to find you then on both of these occasions.
It does seem to happen. It just depends where you are, what the director's looking for. And I've been very lucky, I think, in my film life. I recommend to anybody, if they want to get into this sort of work, look up supporting artists, agents, and sign up. You never know what will happen. And you get things like I've been a corpse and all sorts of things. It's great. It's hard work actually being a corpse. To quote the director, "Corpse don't snore."
Because of course, away from Doctor Who, you've worked on all other sorts of things, but big productions such as the second Thor film, Wonder Woman, how do they compare to what I imagine is quite a small unit on Doctor Who?
You can get lost in the crowd. When we worked on Wonder Woman, we did one scene, the end of the war scene, and there were 400 supporting artists. So it's a sort of, it's you are definitely lost in the crowd, which is they're trying to sort of make that scene, really. But other times, you can be at the sort of the heart of the action and stuff. But you're an important cog. As Spielberg said at the end of filming War Horse, thank you to all the supporting artists. It wouldn't have been a film without you.
Very true. Yeah, often overlooked or forgotten.
Yeah. Sorry about the noise in the background. If you can hear it, my dog is going nutty because I'm not playing with her. So she's chasing around the garden.
But as well as being supporting artists, yourself and your wife are historical interpreters. Am I right in thinking?
Yeah. We basically used to do a lot of World War II type stuff. We wanted our youngest son to get involved, and he did. Then he decided he wouldn't cut his hair, and there's a limit to how much hair you can stuff under a hat. So we thought, well, we still want to do stuff, and we were interested in history from an early age. My wife's father was in charge of ancient monuments for the southwest of England, and my parents were history buffs. And so we thought, we'll have a go at doing a different period. And one of his colleagues at college was doing medieval stuff. He said, why don't you join in? And as my wife and son and myself are archers, we thought, yeah, we'll have a go. And so we joined the group, Company of Chivalry, and started doing 14th century. And I won't say it's sort of taken over our lives, but my wife's in charge of the group now. But we also do different periods. We're doing a lot of Tudor music. We do Napoleonic period stuff. And we were lucky enough to be invited to do the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo. And from a reenactor's point of view, it was amazing. There were 74,000 people watching the battle on each night. And there were over 3,000 reenactors in the battle on each side. They set up 2 complete villages for the Allies and the French and their allies. 150 cannon on each side, horses, 300 horses. It was incredible. So it also, what happens is sorry, my dog went mad. You get the chance to bring that reenactment type stuff to filming. I recently completed a thing. Sorry, my battery's going. So I recently did a thing called Cursed. And I ended up as an armourer on that because I had sort of background knowledge and stuff. So yeah, it's incredible what you can do. Horrible Histories was the best from a reenactor point of view. They contacted us and found out that we had so many costumes that my wife and I ended up doing 5.5 weeks on Series 8 with about 28 costume changes, 3 in 1 song. And we ranged from being Greek through to, I was Queen Victoria's equerry in one scene. It was marvellous. Completely balmy. They spent most of the time trying to make each other laugh. It's great.
So something like Horrible Histories, you're combining both the television supporting artist work and your historical interpreter role. I mean, that surely must be the dream job.
Oh, absolutely. And improv as well, improvisation. So it's just great fun. And I say to anybody in the background artist world, if ever their agent offers them Horrible Histories, grab it, take it, do it.
And before this started, were you working on anything? Were you working on Horrible Histories? Or?
I was working on a new sci-fi set in Victorian times by Mr. Joss Whedon. I can't tell you any more because it's still on the secret list. But I did a day on it, and then that was the Friday. The Monday, everything closed.
Well, I mean, on that note of hopefully something exciting to look forward to when all is finished, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time, Ian, and we shall certainly be keeping an eye out for you.
Yep, it's my pleasure. And as I say, hats off to all Doctor Who fans.